Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm Charlotte and I've got a lovely man here called John who is a patient here at the Christie. We're going to have a bit of a chat, find out a little bit more about him, and I'm going to go straight in with the biggie question. John, I'd like you to tell me a bit about yourself as though we've just met in the pub for the very first time.
I'm 71 years old. I've been married for 50 years. We had our anniversary this March.
Congratulations.
I'm a father of two and a grandfather of two.
So John, tell me a little bit about the diagnosis that has led you here, please, because I know it's a bit of a story, isn't it? Or it goes back a while.
It goes back a long while, actually, yes, because I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma right back in 2002. I noticed large lymph nodes in my groin at the time, actually, and I was taken to the consultant who told me that they would have to treat me. Fortunately, there was some gap between that treatment and I started a spontaneous remission, and it stayed that way for quite a while. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma can turn into an aggressive form from its indolent form. And I was, in 2017, it turned aggressive. They followed treatment with a chemotherapy regime called R-CHOP, which was quite debilitating, as most chemos are, aggressive chemos are. And after that, it failed after about a year. And so I went on the stem cell treatment, again an aggressive type of treatment. And unusually, that failed within 12 months. I then went on to a trial treatment at Liverpool Royal, which was aborted because the physician thought that I'd transformed into an aggressive form of lymphoma again. I hadn't, as it turned out, but that meant the protocol of that trial was broken. And I was referred at the Christie. And I was accepted on a new trial she had. And since then, the news has been very, very good. That's just over 2 years ago now. That treatment was dramatic in that it, after 6 weeks, I had a good partial remission. And after 12 weeks, I went into a complete remission, which I've maintained ever since.
That's fabulous news, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, a miracle.
So, when you're first told about clinical trials, clinical research, and being part of that, what went through your head?
Probably a last chance. Probably the words guinea and pig came together. But all the same, grateful that I'd been accepted. And especially because it was an immunotherapy treatment. It's combined treatment actually, but the main thread of it is immunotherapy, which isn't at all as brutal as the previous chemotherapies that I'd had to go through.
What about your family? Were they raising concerns at all that you were going to be a guinea pig or anything like that?
If they did, then they kept it to themselves. I think that's often the thing with families. I got plenty of support, but they certainly didn't want to burden me with their worries.
So tell me what it was like, or what it's like being on a trial as a patient. What have you been going through?
I came to the Christie, which was a blessing, because I've been, as you have gathered, to a number of hospitals, and they were all good. I don't want to say they weren't. They were all good and I was treated well. But when I came to the Christie, it was a revelation. The place itself and the people, from cleaners to top consultants, were different, and they instilled an air of confidence in me that I was going to get better. It gave me hope on the trial. And that was never diminished really because of the impressive results it returned very quickly. I came in very ill And within a month and a half, I was feeling pretty good. It was that quick. I didn't think that I would see my 70th birthday, although I didn't divulge that to anybody. I certainly didn't think I'd see my 50th wedding anniversary, but I've seen both now. I'm 71 years old and looking forward to an active year.
You said about hope, and I think that's really key here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just getting that hope.
Yes.
And that's come from being on the trial.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah, and hope is, as you say, essential in the whole process of getting better.
Do you think it's given your family hope as well?
Yes, they started treating me just as badly as they did before I was ill. Yes, whereas probably before they tiptoed round a little bit. A bit more reverence, yes.
You sort of mentioned that everyone has given you hope.
Yeah.
But what's it been like, sort of like on the day-to-day basis and like the admin side of it? Were you looked after throughout? Did you know what was happening at all points? Did you understand why you were on the trial?
I did. Yeah, and it was pretty obvious. I became refractory to other treatments. The consultants here are first class, but they're not just first class academics. They're people who know people. They do communicate well. And also the haematology nurses who you're assigned. They're a caring bunch as well as a knowledgeable bunch.
And if at any point you did have any concerns, were you able to raise those concerns, talk about them?
Yes, yeah. That's another great thing about the Christie. You've got access by phone, by email, to the haematology nurses. I always went through them first. Even at a weekend, though, when I had one or two issues, the Christie has a hotline. And that's reassuring, because bad things always happen on a Friday evening.
Oh, guarantee it, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah. So all those things sort of build to give you the sort of confidence that you're being looked after.
What would your message be then to other patients who are being looked at, or their consultants have mentioned a trial and they're maybe a bit concerned about what it means? As you said, the guinea pig words come into their head, or last chance comes into your head, and you feel a bit overwhelmed as well. I suppose there's a bit of an overwhelming feeling going on as well. What would your message be to those people who are just at the beginning of that trial journey?
First of all, we mentioned hope before. There is always hope when you come into the Christie for a trial. I think it's a particularly encouraging time for trials. There's a new generation of treatments and immunotherapies coming out to replace some of the older treatments that have been around. And many of these trials, although some are in their early days, are so very, very promising. I would say, if you're accepted on a trial, certainly take the opportunity.
Did you ever feel like a guinea pig?
No, I didn't. No, people have mentioned it to me, and even sort of congratulations for going on a trial. And I'm thinking, well, it's really not something I should be congratulated on. It's the medical staff and the research people who should be congratulated on the efficacy of the trial. But from my point of view, it was really a no-brainer.
John, thank you so much for talking to me today. I've really enjoyed our conversation and I've learned a lot as well, so thank you.
Nice talking to you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Yeah.